Welcome to Unit 2 of the CLPNM Jurisprudence Education module. In this unit, we will review the standards of practice and conduct related to professional accountability. There are 11 standards in this category. The CLPNM defines accountability as the obligation to answer for the professional, ethical, and legal responsibilities of one's activities and actions or inactions. As we discussed earlier, LPNs are autonomous professionals, making them accountable for their actions, decisions, and the care that they provide. LPNs are expected to collaborate and consult with other professionals and with each other to ensure safe practice and the highest quality of care. Although LPNs are required to collaborate with others, they are not required to work under the direction of another regulated healthcare professional. This professional autonomy is possible, in part, because members of the profession accept full accountability for their practice. These are the first two professional accountability standards. These standards emphasize that LPNs, as regulated professionals, must ensure their practice is consistent with professional standards, guidelines, and all legislation applicable to their profession. Even when working collaboratively as part of a team, LPNs are accountable for their own practice. As well, LPNs must act in situations where client safety and well-being is compromised and report unsafe and unprofessional behavior. Remember, you can pause this video at any time to review the standards noted on the slide and reflect on how you meet these standards in your practice before moving on to the next slide. You will note that several of the standards in this category refer to both accountability and responsibility. These terms are often used interchangeably, but they are not the same. One way to understand the difference is to recognize that an individual is responsible for something, such as administering prescribed medications, and is accountable to something, such as to the CLPNM for upholding the standards of practice and conduct. LPNs are expected to take responsibility for their own actions, including errors, and they are accountable for ensuring that their practice is consistent with practice standards, guidelines, and all legislation applicable to the profession. An LPN who realizes that they have made an error in their practice, who then quickly reports the error and takes immediate action to mitigate risk to the client, is an example of an LPN who is demonstrating accountability. An LPN who recognizes they've made an error but hides the error and fails to act to protect the client would be an example of an LPN who is not demonstrating accountability, and therefore falling short of meeting their professional standards. One of the ways that LPNs can demonstrate their professional accountability is by always placing the interests of the client first. Here are the next four professional accountability standards. Standard 7 will be presented on a separate slide. The standards that describe professional accountability apply beyond the practice environment. They also apply to a nurse's conduct during off hours, if that conduct might damage the public's confidence in the profession overall or call into question the nurse's suitability to practice in a position of trust with vulnerable clients. As noted here, members of Manitoba's practical nursing profession are expected to represent their profession, always, in a manner that contributes to public confidence. This expectation applies to the nurse's statements and actions, whether they are speaking and acting in a professional or personal capacity, and whether they are interacting with others online or in person. Governability may be a new term for some nurses, but the concept it represents is not new in professional standards. Governability refers to generally acting in a way that demonstrates that you understand and accept that your profession is subject to a set of rules. Governability also includes understanding how effective governance of your profession contributes to public protection. As an LPN, when you properly respond to a request from the CLPNM for information, you are demonstrating governability. In the rare event that a complaint is lodged regarding your practice or conduct, cooperating with the investigation process is another way you can demonstrate governability. An LPN who declines to cooperate with regulatory processes that impact their registration and practice is an example of an LPN who is not demonstrating governability. Take a moment to pause this presentation, review the standards noted on the slide, and reflect on the choices you make in your personal and professional capacity to address these expectations. Professional accountability also includes taking responsibility for your fitness to practice. Fitness to practice is defined as the physical, mental, and psychological capacity to consistently meet the demands of the nurse's position and to care for clients safely, competently, and ethically. The CLPNM recognizes that there are times when the nurse's own health status is not fully within the nurse's control. However, a nurse who is making decisions in the client's best interest and meeting their standards will take reasonable and timely actions to make sure that their own well-being does not place clients at risk. The CLPNM has prepared a practice direction to provide more guidance on this document, and it is available on the CLPNM website. On the next slide, we will review a practice scenario involving fitness to practice. Please pause the video and consider the case scenario here. When you start the video again, I will discuss the concept of fitness to practice in relation to this scenario. The nurse in this practice scenario failed to take responsibility for his fitness to practice when he decided not to consult with his supervisor and continued to work his shift while feeling unwell, knowing that he was distracted and confused and that he was at risk for making errors. The CLPN had an opportunity to meet his standards by speaking with his supervisor and working together to identify the best solution for meeting his client's needs. The solution may have been for him to leave work for the day or for him to be given a modified assignment. Either way, speaking with his supervisor would have helped him to avoid placing clients at risk. However, the LPN in this scenario failed to take action to mitigate risk to his clients, resulting in potential harm. The CLPN did not take appropriate action to ensure that he was fit to practice in a safe and competent manner, and in doing so, failed to meet his standards related to professional accountability. Here are the final two professional accountability standards. The expectations of the practical nursing profession have long included protecting the rights of clients, advocating for clients, and treating clients with dignity. The 2021 Standards of Practice and Conduct elaborate on these expectations with the goal of making it explicit that treating clients with dignity includes treating them without discrimination and any form of bullying or harassment. Nurses must also consider the impacts of colonization and recognize factors that undermine the health of Indigenous people and place them at risk for increased morbidity and mortality. Nurses who are not familiar with the impact of colonization and Indigenous people must seek out resources to increase their knowledge. Please pause the video after reading the following scenario and reflect on which standards of professional accountability were breached. When you start the video, I will review the relevant standards. In this scenario, Jay breached Standard 10 as they failed to treat Frank fairly and with dignity by dismissing the fact that he was in distress and assuming his condition was alcohol-related without performing an assessment. Jay also breached Standard 11 as their assumptions about Frank contributed to his death. It is essential that all CLPNM registrants consider the impact of colonization on Indigenous peoples and take steps to prevent harm. Now that you have an understanding of the professional accountability standards, move on to the next unit to learn about the standards related to competent practice. If you have any questions about this unit, or if you have any other questions about practical nursing practice, please contact the CLPNM for more information.